Hello my dear friends, the guy from VAR UMN here to briefly make an announcement. The second album of my solo music project is out now, Prinan Kaparin Uruval, Under the Black Moon. You can check it on Bandcamp if you would like to buy the digital copy of the album and or of each song and previous works. You can also listen to VAR UMN on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube Music, Deezer, Tidal, so on and so forth, and over 20 streaming music platforms. The new album will also soon be available at VAR UMN's own YouTube channel and Instagram. I do hope you have fun, I do hope you enjoy it. There's links below if you want to check this project of mine. And if you would be so kind, of course, please, I would very much like to have your feedback, your opinion on this project. I am having loads of fun doing it. It's now the only thing I would like to do with my life. Well, thank you in advance. Thank you for your support, friendship and love. We shall meet between worlds. See you soon. The Titanic, at the very least a very disappointing vacation. It reminds me of British beer. There's just too much water in it. Hello my dear friends, how are you? How are you feeling today? I hope all is well with you, and if not, it will be. Good will overcome, trust in that. Well then, I'm Mario Theriger, and today I'm here to talk about a subject that is, well, quite uncommon in this channel, taking into consideration, of course, the usual themes here spoken. This is something that bothers me, and in a way, I feel included in this, so I thought it would be a good thing to speak about it, as this is a major problem in today's society and still growing, unfortunately. It has become a recent trend to place a red flag on those who are over 30 years of age and still living with their parents. It's a situation which, in the dating world, is considered a red flag, and people immediately cut off the person who is over 30 years of age and still living with their parents. It's a bit like when people know the zodiac sign of someone and absolutely refuse to even acknowledge that person or know anything about that person solely based on the zodiac sign, because only by the zodiac sign they immediately know the entire life's story and personality of that person. It's fucking stupid. There's a big difference between living with your parents and living off of your parents. The latter, while I'm sure it exists, even though it's a small percentage and there's more to it than meets the eye. Some adults are dependent of their parents or on their parents for a variety of reasons. Could be drug addiction, alcohol, mental and physical incapacities, and so on and so forth. But I'm not here to focus on that. I'm here to focus on those of us, I included, who have no other choice but to live with their parents, given the current housing crisis accompanied by low wages or the struggle of actually getting a job, finding even a job, and high rents and landlords, not even the devil wants them in hell. I live with my parents, not by choice, but by necessity. There's no other way at this moment. Lately, this has been considered a red flag, and even though no one I went on a date with or I've been dating these past few months thought this was a red flag on my part, fortunately. But this is something recurrent that many other people are suffering from, and there's many people out there who have been struggling in terms of dating because they still live with their parents, and this is something a lot of people find it to be wrong, or find it to be a red flag. Jesus, good gods, not that one. This has been mostly targeted at men, but not exclusively, mind you. In a way, it's funny, but mostly sad, that many of us see red flags where there are none and then choose to ignore the actual red flags, and then we wonder why things don't work out, and in the best case scenario, we enter into toxic and abusive relationships. That's another matter. But well, I'm sure many of you have seen plenty of maps, mostly of Europe, even though this is a problem on a global scale. But for my reality, Europe is something I'm more familiar with. Maps usually showing the percentage of each country of the amount of young people between 25 to 34 or 35 that still live with their parents. The percentages vary quite a lot, and they are usually higher than what these maps show. It's a growing problem, so it's not likely that the percentages will fall anytime soon. Also, if we take into consideration adults between the ages of 18 and 40, the numbers are much higher. I'm 35, I still live with my parents, I'm from Portugal, and the percentage of people between 18 and 40 is way over 50%. Eastern European countries have higher percentages. If we include people between the ages of 18 and 40, Greece and Croatia go over 70%. There's actually an ongoing joke for Slavic countries, which is people just wait for their parents to eventually die, and then they inherit the house and finally own a house. Yes, certainly, it's bleak, but it's true, and you kind of have to have a laugh of your own life or you are doomed. Now, for me in Portugal, at the age of 35, I live with my parents. It's impossible for most of us to buy a house. There are several problems here, including Airbnbs. The way tourism has completely ravished the real estate prices, etc., and so on and so forth. Let's not go through there. Let's go to the simple stuff. For Portugal, and many other countries, obviously, but I'm going to focus on my reality to give a better glimpse into it. More than 50% of the population lives on the threshold of the poverty line, on the threshold of poverty, right? Wages are low, forcing people to have 2 and 3 jobs at the same time. I've been on that reality not so long ago, as some of you still remember. Forget buying a house. They are too expensive, even small places that don't even have a room for you to sleep in. Besides, you will be paying to the bank double the amount you have asked for the rest of your life. Or if you are lucky than most and saved more than most people, you will be paying to the bank an amount equal to getting a second house for just one house for the next 30 years. The minimum wage in Portugal is currently 820 euros, right? There's a big percentage of the population that doesn't earn this and earns much less, mind you. But let's focus on the minimum wage. It seems a good number until we remember that every time the minimum wage goes up, everything else goes up too. Inflation is a curse. In truth, most people are not earning more. We are actually earning a lot less, because we are paying more for every product, including food. Even though wages get higher, everything else gets even more expensive. Compared to 20, 25 years ago or so, we are actually paying a lot more, and I mean almost 200 or to 300 euros more for less products, for fewer products. We bring home a lot less food and other products we need to survive. This without counting, obviously, on paying the bills, such as water, gas, electricity, internet, etc. Portugal has one of the worst, absolutely worst internet services in Europe, and it's also one of the most expensive. At the end of the month, what we are left with is sometimes, and in the best case scenario, breadcrumbs of our hard-earned money. Forget saving enough to buy a house. You had to be saving money since before you were even born, so you can eventually buy a house when you are 80 years old and finally start enjoying a little bit of independence and privacy. Now, there's rents, of course, paying the rent. Taking into consideration the minimum wage of 820 euros, there are rents that can go between 500 euros to 2,000 euros and even more. Surely, there are cheaper places. I used to live in a room, nothing else, mind you, and I would pay 220 euros to just have a place to sleep in, that's all. In that entire house, there were over 100 people living in rooms. Can you imagine that? And as you can imagine, it was absolute madness. There were people that could not even afford to pay all that money for a room. And so there were cases of 5 people living inside a tiny room with space for just one bed. And this was in the interior of the country, very far, quite far from a lot of things you need. If you want to have access to the things you need, closer to work, hospitals, schools, supermarkets, you will want to live in the city. But rents in the city are extreme. I live in Lisbon, the capital. You can find for 500 euros a room, just a room, nothing else. Or if you are very, very lucky, even speaking of other major cities in Portugal, such as Porto, Coimbra, Viseu, etc., you can find a house with kitchen and bathroom, but no bedroom for that price, 500 euros. Even so, it's a lot of money. The best choice is to find a roommate. If I had a girlfriend, I could divide the rent with her in a considerable decent place, right? The invitation is open. However, as a guy running solo, I cannot possibly afford a place with the minimum comfort and needs a person has in order to survive, and perhaps, who knows, even fucking living a little. I'm in a position that I am forced to live with my parents. There's no other choice, that's it. Either that or lose all of my money on a rent and ending up returning to my parents eventually because, well, I don't want to live on the streets. And I, unlike many, I am now in a privileged position where I have patrons who give me a certain amount of money for my work and research, which helps me quite a lot. Most people don't have this luck. Most people don't have this privilege. And mind you, I have been in those situations before. Something I am not prepared to talk about yet. It's certainly not in this video. Suffice it to say, for almost 30 years, there were some pretty hard moments of struggle. Anyway, let's move on. There's people in Portugal and many other countries, obviously, currently with the same issues. But that they don't even have parents, do not have any family's house to go to, and don't make enough money to pay rents, because rents are also skyrocketing due to local accommodations, Airbnbs, hostels, etc. There's people in Portugal, again, and in many other countries, that are homeless. Homelessness is growing because people cannot possibly afford to even pay a rent. Homelessness in Portugal has increased 19% from 2023 to 2024, just one whole year as possible, just 1 year. And there's a lot more homeless people. Those of us who have the choice to return to our parents' home, even people who are married and with children, we are going back to that because it is preferable than living on the streets, which I think anyone would agree if they have the wits of a bloody turnip. So when people say that it is a red flag for someone over 30 living with their parents, well, I mean, perhaps it would be kind of you to have a little empathy and see past your privilege and luck and understand that there are many reasons leading people to still live with their parents or going back to their parents' house. Reasons that put people into a position where they have no other choice. And it's a problem they have no control over. As I said, there's a big difference between living with your parents and living off of your parents. There's many people who have a job, they have their own money, they have their independence in everything or almost everything, and even have children, but are still forced to live with their parents. And this is, frankly, at this moment, a better scenario for most, a better choice for most. Because there's people who have no other choice but to live on the streets. Some have cars to live in, others can only afford to buy a tent, and some nothing at all. There's people who cannot even get a job, and at the very least, they could have had some independence in that, with that at least, but they don't. But in all seriousness, well, this was all serious, but if you are in these situations and a person comes to you and tells you it's a red flag to still live with your parents, well, that person is not for you, mate. You don't want someone with lack of empathy and cannot even look beyond the scope of their own little bubble of privilege and luck. So I thought this had to be said, and I very much like to know your reality on this. Please comment that on below on the comment section and let's cry together because I know I'm not alone in this. And I think it's good to admit my own life's condition, which, even though what I have expressed here as being my current condition, nowadays it's way better than before. I know it can be better and I have prospects for the future, I have hope, I want to have my own place eventually, God knows when. I want to raise my own family, I want to be a father. However, I know that right now my current situation improved compared to the past, and not so far a past in my life which has had its difficulties. And there's people who have it worse, with whom I can identify and empathize. So, my dear friends, I hope this helps, and thank you for your support and friendship. Obviously, a very special thanks to my patrons whose support is truly life-saving. Thank you very much for your help. All the best to you, to all of you. Stay strong. Things will eventually improve. Until we meet again, my dear friends. God, I'm nervous. I'm currently looking for a girlfriend, by the way, because of reasons. Just saying. Fuck's sake. Farewell.